Hey guys, welcome back to Nom Talk Network and Basic Binges. I'm your host, Mike Manalo. We are here to talk about the second episode of The Last of Us, and I'm here with my two good buddies, Jordyn and Kenji. How are you guys? Hopefully everyone's doing okay. I'll have you guys introduce yourselves, right now as well. Jordyn, would you like to start?
Sure. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for having me back for the second episode. I am so thrilled for this introduction, or this introduction to this film, or sorry, to this TV series and adaptation from the video game. It's just getting good and better each episode I watch, so I'm really excited. I am having a microwavable cheeseburger. It's actually really good, so don't knock the microwavable cheeseburgers. And a Mai Tai tonight, so when we talk about it. But yeah, good to see you all.
Great to see you too, Jordyn. And then Kenji, how about you, buddy?
Uh, hey everybody, my name is Kenji. I am a actor and martial artist. Um, I'm really excited to be back here again. Like honestly, I'm right there with Jordyn when he said like every episode so far has been getting good. So like I actually want to just keep talking about it, and yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, like so I am eating egg rolls that I got that I put in the air fryer. Uh, and also I've got some Dr. Pepper in this cup, repping my dad's D&D campaign. I'm Get used to me talking about this every single time, just letting you guys know right ahead. But yeah, I'm gonna be drinking my beverage, Dr. Pepper, out of my D&D campaign mug.
We love it. Just keep plugging it, keep plugging away. Yeah, you guys have a Twitch campaign, right? Like that you guys usually do on Sundays. Is that correct?
Yes. So every Sunday, we do a D&D campaign. It's usually from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time, at least I think so. It might be noon. No, 1 p.m. No, it's 1 p.m. Yeah. But anyhow, yeah, no, we basically have an ongoing campaign called the Gatewalker Saga. And yeah, my dad's the DM. I play an Eldritch Knight. Well, using the Eldritch Knight as a base to jump off of, I have created essentially a Witcher. So it's been
Nice.
fun. But yeah, my Witcher is the weird thing about it is that his mind has the ability to jump from different planes of spatial planes of awareness. So because of that, he makes pop culture references, but no one knows what he's talking about because he doesn't. No one knows what he's talking about.
Love
But
it.
yeah, it's very fun.
Very
Yeah,
Deadpool-y. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. And it's essentially, yeah, it's essentially Deadpool meets Geralt, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, my sisters are also part of it too, as well as my cousin and my dad's friend. Like it's a big campaign. Like there's quite a bit of us in it, so definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun, and also, yeah, when you're checking us out, please support us by buying our merch.
Very
Anyhow,
nice plug. Very nice plug, Kenji. Bravo. And as you guys know, I'm Mike Manalo. I'm your host for The Last of Us recaps here on Nom Talk Network via Basic Binges. To follow suit, because we are a food show, I am eating Skittles and drinking bottled water. I decided to take a break from the Coke Zero right now, so I'm getting my fix via Skittles. In support of candy wokeness, because apparently that's a thing now. No, I'm joking. Yeah, yeah. But all things considered, before we begin, there is actually something at the top of this that I do want to address, and it's all well and good for us to talk about fictional stories about the apocalypse where people are rightfully afraid of other people. I think that that's one of the main huge threats in The Last of Us is other people. But the thing is, we are living in a world where that couldn't be more true. And in response to a lot of the violence that has taken place over the past weekend in Monterey Park, where a lot of us actually live very close to, here at Nom Talk Network. But also Half Moon Bay, which just happened, the shootings that happened just a couple of hours ago. Our hearts and our thoughts go out to all of the families of the victims and all of those recovering from the hospital, in the hospital, from the shootings. We love you guys. We support you guys. We want to encourage everyone watching. This isn't just about sending thoughts and prayers. This isn't just about, posting on social. If you can, try and find some of the charities out there to donate to a lot of the damage that had taken place in Monterey Park or Half Moon Bay, or some of the families, the victims who have hospital bills that they're going to have to look into. See what you can do to find legitimate charities to support your fellow man. Because right now, humanity is not looking great, but we can change that, and we can actually be better and not turn things into the violent-filled, scary world of The Last of Us. So thoughts and prayers and support and money as much as we can to help all of those who have suffered this weekend and today. In addition to that, we also have another charity that we're supporting here on Nom Talk Network for the LGBTQ community. I know, Stephanie will post the link out if you guys want to send your support. Again, in the interest of becoming really good human beings and not becoming Last of Us threats to humanity, definitely consider supporting as well. All of the different charities that you can to assist all of our fellow men. So thank you guys as always for listening to us and for supporting and being good people. So having said that, I think we can get into the show. And I want to just start with, first thoughts, initial thoughts. I'm going to be honest and say that I love the living crap out of this episode, and the show just keeps getting better and better. But I want to hear what you boys have to think. Kenji, we'll start with you. Thoughts on the second episode of Last of Us?
Oh man, they started off so strong with the first episode already. They hit the notes that all the right notes that they need to hit to basically for fans of the games as well as people who don't know the games at all. For new fans and old fans, it was perfect. And so now at this episode, it just kind of just set the bar so much higher. The scale, it was a much smaller scale story, overall. The set. I feel like the other episodes, it was there were so many more people. For lack of a better word, there were so many more background extras. You know what I mean? In this episode, it was much more intimate storyline, and I feel like, don't get me wrong, the first episode was too, but I love that this episode had the tension that it was so perfect. It built the tension so well. It described the world that we were in so well, for people who, don't know what's going on. And honestly, I've played the games, and even technically speaking, I don't know what's going on. And I think that's the whole point, is that we really don't know what's going on. So the fact that they're making it accessible even for us, that the veering off from the usual formula that they're doing is still so well done that it still appeals to the fans, I think is absolutely wonderful. And I love that each episode we get a bit of a view of what happened, just a little more insight as to how this whole situation came to be. And I love it. And yeah, it's awesome.
We are definitely going to dive into that prologue, by the way, guys. There's been 2 prologues so far, in 2 episodes, both original things that aren't in the games that I think deserve, highlighting. So we're definitely going to get into that. But before we do, Jordyn, what about you? Reaction to the second episode?
Yeah, I watched it last night, and it was I watched it when it came out, and I was like, it's 9:00. Usually it's my bedtime because I'm old, A. But also B, I have a cat that wakes me up at 5 a.m. every morning, so I'm I gotta fucking get to bed. But I was like, you know what? no, let me watch this episode so I can be prepped for the morning. When I say like from jump, like from the beginning of this like episode, I thought I was playing the game. I was sitting there and I was like, okay, go that way, go that way, okay, go that way. And then it was like, oh, but you got to go this way. And then you have to like find how to get to the, and then it was very cinematic, and it was like just like how the game sort of played out for me at least. And so I was at the edge of my seat. And then I think for me, the parts that needed to be scary were scary, right? Where I knew what was coming, but I still was like, fuck, 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 right? And I had just watched Smile this weekend, which to me was like, I don't get scared easy at all. Like take me to Hollywood Horror Nights, fine. Like I'll get scared. But like I don't get scared at movies like that easy. And this one I was like I was like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And then, things started to progress. And so for me, I thought this episode was great. I thought it was just it immerses the audience, it immerses you as the person that's watching it, and you just sort of get, you get in their world for a little bit, and you kind of figure out, what's going on. And yeah, like the prologue, I'm loving these little things to where it leads up to, right? Because I think one of the things that we didn't get and we don't get in a lot of like sort of zombie films where shit like this happens, or like zombie apocalyptic films, is we don't really get an explanation, right? Like for example, like Walking Dead, which I was a huge fan of until like the sixth season when I stopped watching. It was one of the creepiest episodes to me was when they reach the CDC and the guy that's there explains to them how it happens, right? Like and so it freaks you out because you're like, shit, like, and then you start to realize that like everybody's infected, but you don't know how, right? Like you're like, I don't know how this happens, right? But with this, you're sort of getting a simple explanation, not a simple one, but like you're getting it explained as to how this sort of came about. My thing is it's realistic, like it could happen, right? And so that's what's making this whole experience sort of like it just wraps it in like a cute little like horror cocoon for me, because I'm like, it could happen like tomorrow, right? So
Absolutely. I think you guys touched on two things that I think separates The Last of Us from most zombie stories that we've seen so far. One is the intimacy of it. I think Kenji really, if you've played the game, then you know that this isn't really an ensemble. This is a story that focuses on two characters, and their relationship. And that's kind of that's where a lot of the strength of this story actually comes from, is this wonderful relationship. And we're getting there. Clearly, by the end of this episode, we've gotten to the starting point of that. And I say that because, well, we'll get into the very ending of the episode a little later, but it is definitely the starting point of this intimate story of these two characters, Joel and Ellie. The other thing that we touched on is the realism and the explanation behind the zombie apocalypse. To your point, Jordyn, that is something that we don't usually get from these movies. Sometimes we get, very vague explanations. Oh, it's mad cow disease, and then it just became, whatever. But here they take this scientific possibility, so it's a truth that's stranger than fiction. And they put a spin on it that actually makes it very plausible. And when you see, and I'm going to jump into that prologue scene, when we see the Jakarta scene, a nice nod, by the way, to the radio moment that we saw in the first episode, where Tommy and Joel were wondering where Jakarta was, and they're talking about a news incident there. We see that unfold, and it is a goddamn terrifying moment where she, you start with her looking at the slide and going like, why'd you do it like this? They're like, because it came from a human. She's like, that's not possible. And then she finds out it's possible. And then you get like Thing vibes, with like the suit, and like Alien almost vibes as well, where she pulls out the cordyceps from that mouth, and then it starts twitching and moving. You're like, like creepy as hell. But then I think even more creepy than the creature effects was what happens after, where they ask her, you're the foremost expert. What's the vaccine? What's the cure for this? And she flat out says, there isn't any. You just got a bomb.
Nah, bitch. I got nothing.
There's nothing more terrifying than that moment because that is one of the most realistic and human moments that you can ever get in a, in an honest video game, honestly, or show in this case. So I'm glad that you guys pointed that out. I want to get your thoughts. Oh, go
I just
ahead,
wanted to
Kenji. Yeah,
I
please.
wanted to touch in. It's like, and then that it's at that moment, it's just terrifying because it's like one of those things where it's like the way she says it, it's almost like one of those I was listening to Troy Baker's interview with the creators, the director, and he said it's like one of those moments where like it's like that moment where she says that it's like, I know you're asking me, you know what you have to do, and you're only asking me because you know what you have to do,
Yeah.
but you don't want to be the person that says what has to be done.
You need permission.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or you didn't know this, and now that I've let this genie out of the bottle, we're all fucked.
Oof. And just the sheer fact that it could come from substrates like flour or grains,
Oh yeah.
so creepy, so scary. I do want to get into this a little bit more, but before I do, I want to give a couple of shout outs. We've got Boba Fett LV on the call on our Twitch. Hey Boba, how you doing? We also got our good friend Q Ball. Both of you guys are good friends of ours, and we love having you guys on here. Always a pleasure to have you guys. I know Boba Fett, you said a couple of things already. One, your complaint about the episode was that it just wasn't long enough and that everything passed by so quickly. And I couldn't agree more. I thought this was a 30-minute episode. It was literally a 55-minute episode. It was an hour long, basically. And it didn't feel like it because the show is that good, that tense. Thank you for the compliments on our background. And if I had any Sprite to pour the Skittles in, then I would make you happy and pour those Skittles in that Sprite. And I'm so sorry that I don't right now.
What's wrong with you, Mike?
As for Q Ball, who we always love talking to as well. Thank you for asking about our weekends. I think it was definitely trying for a lot of folks, especially in the Asian community. People came from Monterey Park, but on a personal level, I think we're very lucky to be safe, to be okay, and hopefully, I think some of our friends and family who are Asian were able to celebrate Lunar New Year okay. But yeah, thank you guys as always for always watching and participating. Please feel free to keep the comments coming. And don't forget, everyone, you can spend your Nom Talk bucks to make us do stupid things.
Damn
Jordyn
it,
is saying no. I know that I shouldn't have said that because we might have to sing or we might have to chug or we might have to drink or stretch or something like that. But
I am not chugging.
It is unfortunately an obligatory thing that I must do for Nom Talk for the benefit of our
to hydrate. Our boss is really telling us to hydrate right now.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, looks like we already hydrate. We spent 100 to hydrate. Everybody hydrate. All right. Thank you, boss lady.
Hold on, I gotta hold on.
Yeah. Hopefully Kenji's okay. He didn't hydrate too hard. He'll be back. Oh, very cool.
It's like I ran out of stuff to I don't know if hydrate's the right word because it's cola.
Yeah, it's hydrating, I mean, cola's made out of some water, right? Cue Ball, you should hydrate too. You should drink your hot chocolate. I think that's what you're drinking right now. And then our boss ladies, who we love, by the way, sipping on some emergency. Hopefully she's all right. But yeah. Anyways, apologies for the side track, guys. Jordyn, I wanted to get back to you. I mean, just like elaborating a little bit more on the Jakarta scene. As somebody who's played the game, who hasn't seen this scene ever before, because it's new content for us. I mean, thoughts on how that made you feel, that whole scene and the ending and everything like that.
So I think I spoke to you pre-show about this too. Like there was after the first episode, there was the theory going on because, in that sort of radio sequence when in the before times when Joel's daughter is over at the neighbor's house and they're making cookies, right? There are very specific things that happen that Joel's daughter does not do, right? So the first thing is when they're all eating breakfast, right? Joel is saying, "Oh, I thought you were going to make pancakes." And she says, "We don't have any pancake mix." So I made eggs and I made this, this, and this, right? The second thing was when she is over at the neighbor's house and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna make cookies," and she's like, "Okay, cool. What kind of cookies?" And then she said, she said chocolate chip, and she said no, raisin, and then she was like, "I ain't eating raisin cookies." So, and a lot of times, those things, right, like pancake mix, cookie mix, all those are made with flour, right?
Yep.
So, and then we see later on that the grandmother, obviously, like she becomes infected and like does all that stuff. And so it was just very interesting to hear sort of like the interwebs and like being on TikTok and hearing the conspiracy theories. And I was like, that totally makes sense. Sidebar, sometimes I drink mud water, and if you all don't know what mud water is, it's like this, like it's like a coffee alternative. One of the main ingredients is cordyceps in it, and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking turn into a zombie any day. I'm just gonna fucking like turn into a clicker, and I'm gonna just eat people. But you know, and so that's just like a little funny sidebar because I was talking to some students today about it, and I was like, yeah, it's like cordyceps, lion's mane, and like all this other like mushrooms, right, that like grow naturally. But you know, that beginning scene, I was like, the fact that that was so realistic and so like could happen, but then also I think this is standard among like zombie apocalypse things is like everybody keeps it hush hush, right? Like nobody says anything, right? Like they could have been like, "Hey, this thing is happening over here. I just be aware of it," right? Like with COVID, right? Like that kind of happened with COVID where it was like, "Hey, we didn't really say anything until it became like a national outbreak, and at that point it's too late. It's like all over the world, right? And then we go into quarantine and all that." So I think this is a standard theme when it comes to like, okay, you got to keep this quiet. You can't do anything. You're gonna have to bomb the whole city. I just want to go home to my family. And then a year later, it's just like an outbreak across the world. And so I feel like it was just very realistic, very, very like it could happen, right? So I kind of appreciate these little prologue scenes.
I do too. It definitely does feel like it could happen, especially if you're drinking mud water with cordyceps. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Knock
Sorry,
on
guys.
wood. Jordyn, if you do get infected, we still want you on the show. As long as it's virtual, we're okay. You know, that's fine. You know, it's safe. But we still would love to have you because even as a clicker, you'd have amazing insights. So thank you for that.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, of course. So thank you both for your really good insights on just the prologue. I think that is a really important scene. I think you called out something really interesting too, Jordyn. The little Easter eggs that tie the first episode to the second episode. The grandma, for example, is eating a biscuit, and they offer it to Joel, and Joel's like, "No, I'm good. I'm on Atkins," and you know, shortly after that, she becomes a zombie, so or an infected. So yeah, it's nice that they're kind of interweaving both of these episodes or anything like that. Final thoughts on the Jakarta scene before we move on? No?
Yeah.
All right. So we get out of Jakarta, which is an amazing prologue, not from the game, really interesting. Ways that both Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann are enhancing the amazing story of the game into something even deeper, which is insane. By the way, mad props to Neil Druckmann. This was his directorial debut. He's never shot anything outside of a video game before. This is his first live action debut, and he knocked it out of the park, guys. So that's
Wait,
amazing.
Was it this episode or both?
It was this episode, and then I think Craig Mazin directed the first one.
That's why I felt so like gamey in this
Exactly.
one, where it was like it wasn't to the point where I was like, this is disgusting, but I was like, I can see it. Like I said, like ooh, left, right, why, and so it was just like I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, it was really amazing. Boba Fett, you put a couple things. There's a couple things, unfortunately, that we'll have to address. The first is it's random, but Boba Fett thought that the scene where Ellie was eating the chicken sandwich changed so many times during the scene he had to rewatch it and pay attention to what they said. I didn't notice that personally, but I'm glad that somebody did. Boba Fett. I'm gonna have to rewatch and take a look at that blooper. That's funny as hell. And then,
it's not. I mean, I feel like it's not as bad as as the Eggo waffle turning into a pancake in Pretty Woman, but
or the coffee cup in the middle of Westeros, right? I mean, that's pretty bad.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And then I think there was like a background guy in the middle of a Mando episode or something like that was standing there in the background. So
it was in the trailer. That they did for the sneak peek. There's a quick glimpse, and you just see a PA just kind of standing. It's like the doorway is like covering from the waist up, so like you can't see his face, but you just see like this.
The most famous crotch in the Star Wars universe, apparently.
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
There's also one more little bit of bad news, guys. Our friend Boba Fett has decided to betray us because he's Boba Fett and decided to redeem the third person initiative. So for the next couple of minutes until Steph, you tell us not to, Mike is going to talk like this. So Mike would like to know, considering that the show progresses from the Jakarta scene to present day with Ellie and Joel and Tess, what everyone thought of the reintroduction, I suppose, Mike supposes, in this episode with Ellie, Joel, and Tess finding out that Ellie was infected, not infected, but bitten weeks ago and not infected today, with Joel kind of getting paranoid and trying to shoot her. From that scene to the hotel scene, what did everyone think of the Joel Ellie Tess dynamic during all of this, and some of the nods as well to the video game with Ellie going like ding ding ding, give Ellie her bags or whatever, and then Joel saying you're a weird kid. Mike personally loved it. Mike thought it was amazing. Mike loved seeing all of this come to life on screen. But Mike would like to know what you both think. Mike says, Kenji, you started out.
Oh, I mean, I definitely loved it because we have like this great, this dynamic that's happening because, because Tess has something that Joel lost in a way, and that is hope. And we really get to see that in this moment because you see like Tess talking about like, like she was bit weeks ago, and she's still acting like this. They took tests on her to make sure that she didn't change. And he's like, yeah, well, it's going to happen anyways, like it's going to happen eventually, and he at one point he even says, why are you acting like this girl's got a future she doesn't have, kind of thing. Like, and the thing, it's like he knows what is going to come out of this if they go ahead of this, and he's like, he doesn't want to do it because like he just doesn't want to end up going through what he did already, and I know that Tess actually has a whole backstory herself that they never actually filmed. I don't know if is there if I get into that? I mean, yeah, the whole idea is that apparently they wrote it but they never shot it, and that was that Tess had to her family got infected. It was her husband got infected and her son got infected, and she was able to kill the husband, but she wasn't able to kill her son, and she locked him in the basement. And so, like, in a way, it's like there's like it's almost like a weird like there like it's so like in a way she's trying to redeem and possibly save another child that she wasn't able to save herself, like, but that's the difference between her and Joel at this current moment, is that she has the hope to possibly for that redemption, while Joel just he wants nothing to do with it. He just it's like I just want it's like we just need to get the battery and go, okay? We just need the battery. We need to get out of here, okay? It's like no, we need to fucking do this. So yeah, like I love the dynamic that we get. We also, especially with we get to see just we see that they both want to connect between the two of them, but they are also so hard-headed and they're such assholes in their own rights, both Ellie and Joel, that they're just getting in each other's way. Like, like she's like, he's trying to connect with her, being like, hey, that's a cool knife. Where'd you learn how to do these tricks? She's like, the circus. It's like all right, well, it's all right, well, be that way, you little shit, and then like, but then like and then like she tries to connect with him later on too, and then even he's like, and then he's a little asshole himself, so it's like so yeah, I personally, it's like I love that we are getting to see this wonderful dynamic between, like, starting to grow between them. This, because ultimately the story that's going to be, Joel and Ellie, and the reason why so many people got so angry in the sequel.
Mike agrees. Mike would also like to point out, speaking of angry, the chat has been going crazy because Kenji, you broke the third person rule, buddy.
Oh, I thought it was one at a time. I didn't realize that. Am I doing it too?
It's okay. It's okay. Stephanie's gonna think of a penalty because people are calling for your head, but it's okay. Mike won't hold it against you. Mike still loves you. Mike is asking for mercy from the chat and from Stephanie. But Mike says it's okay.
The rules are changing from last. The rules are different from last week. That's not how we did things last week. So the fact that these are new rules, and I don't appreciate that these rules have changed on me. But okay.
Mike would like to apologize for any and all confusion. Mike should have probably clarified at the beginning of that. Apologies. But Mike does think great insight. I'm not sure if this is over yet, but Mike's not sure if it's over yet.
Because Mike didn't have the insight to tell Kenji about this rule change.
Mike thought you were on a roll. Kenji was on a roll. Kenji had such good insight, and Mike didn't want to interrupt because Mike is way too polite and he's eating Skittles. So apologies for that. Are we good with the third person before Mike passes to Jordyn? Wait, hang on. I'm getting something. Is this a joke?
I have to continue speaking in third person. Kenji has to continue speaking in third person. Everyone else is safe.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Kenji was done with what he was saying, so I guess he has to wait for the next one.
All right. Well,
love this.
If everyone else is safe, and I'm safe, then Jordyn, I will pass it to you. I think you're safe now as well.
Thank God. Okay, wait. What was the question? What are we talking about now?
From the moment that we see Ellie waking up to the hotel scene, and Kenji kind of alluded to the idea of Joel and Ellie starting to get to know each other when Tess is going up and trying to unlock, which, by the way, how much more video gamey can you get? That was like, that's a perfect Last of Us video game moment. I'm gonna climb up and then I'm gonna let you guys in.
Yep.
Pure Last of Us. Yeah, what did you think of that entire segment from Ellie waking up to the hotel?
Yeah, I'm sort of liking this whole, like, Ellie waking up in this like flora and fauna bed, right? She like wakes up and it's like, oh, moss and all this stuff, and I'm like, is something going on? Is this foreshadowing? But I think it was very video gamey for a certain number of reasons, because I think Kenji's right, like in a sense where Tess is like the hope, Joel is like, nah, fuck this shit, like she's infected, blah 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 blah. And as they climb and traverse, the hotel and all that stuff, I thought the little quips were good. I thought it was, I thought it was necessary, right? Like it's like, come on, like they're trying to survive, like they're going through this. And what I appreciated about this episode is, I think for me, it wasn't necessarily the infected that were the main enemies in this entire video game and in this entire franchise, right? But what this episode did was put in reality that these things actually exist and they could be lethal, right? And I think you kind of see that with like Joel and with Tess, right? Like they know what they're up against. And Ellie's the first one that's like, shit, like, yeah, I got bit, but like I haven't been exposed to this kind of shit, right? And it's like when they get to the roof and then they see just an entire smorgasbord of infected, right? That when the sun goes by them, right, they all like turn and they do stuff. And that I think is it's very unique and obviously very The Last of Us, where it's like, yeah, if you do something and they're connected, like you're fucked. Like everybody's coming after you, like, which is very different from any zombie like thing, right? Like you kill a zombie, like they're not going to notify somebody else unless they have like telepathy, right? Like it's just like some, it's not going to do that. But
clearly you've never played. Clearly you've never played Left 4 Dead. But okay.
No, I haven't.
There's a hive mentality in Left 4 Dead.
Oh yeah, there's one where like it's like every time it like shrieks, like they all like there's one that like shrieks, and every time it shrieks, it like it lets all the other like zombies know, and like it just, not to mention like these guys, it's like 28 days later zombies where they're like running at you. So
that's almost that's similar to shit. It was like the Juggernaut edition, and it was the shoot. I used to play it, but it was another zombie. It was another zombie game, and they did have shriekers where like they would call zombies that were like around you, and you had to like kill like certain zombies. And anyway, but I feel like The Last of Us and the Infected are very unique to this like universe that they live in, and it's like, but and the thing is, it's like, when they killed one of the zombies that were in the museum, the ones at the hotel knew that this one had gotten killed, which is why I'm like, you don't see that in any sort of like universe or anything, right? Like these are things that can reach across cities and can notify, right? And then all of a sudden you have a herd, you have like and so I feel like this was very video gamey. It was very like, shit, like this is the reality that these people live in, and besides humans that they have to worry about, like this is an actual threat, that can threaten what they're trying to do. So,
and if you guys stuck around for the after show, because you know how they show kind of a behind the scenes look, HBO does that after some of these episodes. You hear Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann really kind of addressing the idea that they were inspired by real life fungi and cordyceps, which could grow as organisms, like miles and miles and miles. And it's the single organism. And that was very much what kind of inspired a lot of this, because when you think about like, especially towards the end, like the tendrils on the ground, growing over some of the infected ex-fireflies, and then they put one down. I mean, immediately the repercussions of that, literally come charging at them. So it's a really interesting take on the zombie genre. The other thing that I kind of loved about these hotel scenes is, from a character-driven perspective, we are starting to see Ellie make her way out into a world that she has never seen or been exposed to before. Everything outside the quarantine zone. So I think this is a recurring motif throughout the game. First time experiences that Ellie kind of sees, seeing the world through her eyes the first time, because she's only known anything outside inside the quarantine zone, and how that sort of contrasts with a world weary person like Joel, who's lived in the time before that, who's seen the world before that, and the only thing he's ever taken away from it is pain and death and all of that. When you have these two characters, this is very important to the dynamic of the game and the two characters and the relationship that comes between them, because I think you start to get the idea that the person that Joel needs more than anything, the person that's going to change his outlook on life, is somebody who's seeing the world for the first time, and all of these experiences for the first time. So definitely something to look out for. Just that giddy optimism that we see when she's playing around with the hotel, when she's asking him questions about it. It's definitely something that could have easily been annoying in any character, but for whatever reason, we are so endeared to Ellie. Part of it is Vela, but also part of it is who this character is and the understanding of where she came from. So I love that the show makes that apparent, and the game makes that apparent too. But yeah, I'd also like to... Go ahead, Kenji.
You were talking about like she's endearing and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, that's how you write an endearing character. Because like I was thinking of like the worst example of a non-endearing character, and all I can think of is I like ice cream.
Oh God, the Billy and Tommy thing. Oof.
Oh.
That was a rough moment in Doctor Strange for sure.
It's literally the Simpsons meme that that's how you write an endearing character.
I mean, even if you take a look at like Black Adam and the kid from Black Adam and how annoying that kid was and how much you just wanted to smack that little, Anyways, but yeah. I also want to give a shout out to somebody who joined the chat. Hey, Vienna Mori. I think she's giving a shout out to you, Kenji. And saying hi. So yeah.
Hello. Thanks for joining. Appreciate
There's at least one person on the chat who doesn't want to kill you because they joined after the third person incident. So it's okay. I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, it's all right. And I'll take what I can. I'm innocent. All right. I didn't know the laws of your country.
No, it's true. We all against you. This time. No, I'm kidding. So we get to the hotel. We do have tests kind of showing the horde and how they're all kind of, if you look at the way that's animated, it's almost like a wave, right? Like a singular organism moving in the same perspective, but it's hundreds of bodies, dead bodies, it's really eerie, which obviously prompts these guys to go to one of the most famous locations in the game, the museum. And that's kind of their safe passage there. I'm going to stop right there, and I'm just going to just put it out there. Guys, let's talk about clickers. Can we talk about clickers? What did we think of the clickers and how they brought them to life? Kenji, I'm going to start with you. What do you think?
Oh, I think they did such a fantastic job realizing these creatures, because it's one thing to have it be CGI, and just kind of putting it there, but like the fact that they did it in a way so that it could be physically done was fantastic. Like that's an actual actor that's underneath that. So like the fact that it's like you just get such an amazing performance from it. It's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And and the way that, I don't know, like I get like whenever I see like a character that has like a creature like that that's like hunting, it's like no eyes and stuff like that, I instantly get like what is it, xenomorph,
Yeah,
xenomorph vibes. So like, yeah, I think it's just absolutely, I think they did a fantastic job. I'm really hoping that we get to see some of the other, and I love that the way that they kind of explain the way that the clickers work is just through those couple lines that Ellie says, where she's like, yeah, I hear there's some that like their heads open up like a bat, and and that's how they see. They see like a bat, and then she also says like there's one that like shoots spores into your face, things. So like clearly like we're gonna see different kinds of these cordyceps infected people, clearly. And who knows, we might even see something that we haven't even seen in the game. So like, who knows? Because clearly we clearly have seen now that we're not going exactly beat for beat the way it is in the video game, and obviously, well, one of them being, of course, that um, there is a distinct beginning and an end to each chapter. As opposed to when we're playing the game, um, it only really ends when we put the controller down. So,
Yeah.
so with that in mind, like I just think it's awesome that we I just the clickers are just I'm really hoping that we get to see more of these infected creatures. Like just the performance is fantastic. All right, I'm done.
No, I love it, man. Yeah, go ahead. That was a big what's up?
No, no one else is saying anything. So,
Are we talking about the stretch?
no,
Oh,
not that at all. But yeah, let's stretch. Yeah, I
okay.
can stretch. Yeah, let's stretch. Let's totally
Well, we do
stretch.
have a Nom Talk redemption for stretch, so everybody stretch. All right. No, but Kenji, seriously, if there's something that you wanted to touch on, even if no one's touching on it, please feel free. We can definitely chat about it.
No. I'm
Sure.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah.
Kenji's
Now
okay.
that stretch felt good, by the way. So I'm glad about that. But Jordyn, clicker thoughts. What did you think about all of that?
It was clickbait. No. So one of the things I did want to point out is when they first encountered and they went into that room where the guy was like basically up against the wall and he was just completely fungi, right? Like he was like all fungus. It was giving very much Annihilation vibes. I don't know if y'all have ever seen that when Natalie Portman, Oscar Isaac, and all these and they're like at the pool and like it was like when they were filming all this stuff and then he was like spread out right like against like the pool walls and I just thought about it and like I going back to your point, Mike, like just being that like hive-minded single like thing where you find out and Pedro Pascal points out Joel, Pedro Pascal's character Joel points out he's like it's dry, like I think we're good, right? Where we're reaching an age where it's like 20 years later and fungus eventually dies, right? Like it eventually like, it's if it's not nourished enough, if it doesn't get enough, what it needs, it eventually like passes on and does that. So he's like, cool, like I think we're okay. And then that's when they come across the clickers who I thought did a phenomenal job, right? Like that's the part where they're like in there and then you hear it and I'm like, oh Jesus Christ. So I had to pause, I had to go pee, and then I like came back and like my cat's sleeping right here and I'm like, let's do this. And then it becomes a whole scene where it's like a video game. Like they're fighting, like they have to use what they have and like all that stuff. And they have to be really careful about like guns that they use and like all that other stuff because they don't know what's around. And it was a very real scene for me when it comes to playing the video game, and then obviously we get the what happened after, but I feel like I was just immersed the whole time. I was like, oh my god, no, right trigger, shoot him, you know what I mean? Like it was just so immersive for me, and it was at the same time like watching like a very short movie for me. And I thought the fact that they were real and the fact that they weren't CGI or the fact that they weren't right. And Kenji, I was talking to Mike earlier about this, but when Bella and Pedro they were doing an interview, they basically said we didn't know what they were going to look like until we started shooting, and it was just a very real experience for us. And the fact that like you know, makeup and special effects have come such a long way where they can just do that and then they have to act like it, like act in the moment is amazing. And they didn't know what it actually was going to look like until they started filming. So you get that like raw sort of like acting when you sort of see it, and I loved it. I thought it was amazing.
I did too. I know the term probably gets tossed around a lot, and this is Druckmann's first time really doing something live action. But I'm going to say it, and hopefully I don't get heat for it. There was something really Spielbergian about this entire episode, in my opinion. The formation of relationships, the kid and the surrogate father kind of dynamic that starts forming, and that clicker scene was really reminiscent of kind of the raptor scenes from that first Jurassic Park movie in the kitchen and everything like that, where Tim and Lex are hiding from the raptors. There's an element of suspense to all of that, but it's not just gratuitous. It's all done very, very well. And it's all very much necessary for the story, not just for the narrative beats about what happens next, particularly with Tessa's character, but how this is going to ultimately inform the journey of Joel and Ellie too. The survival. I think Boba, you wanted to ask. The confusing part was, when did Ellie get bitten again? I caught that actually, and it was when Joel and Ellie are sort of going around that kind of table, and they're being very quiet. And Joel is on his knees. He tells Ellie, let's move this way, and then he hits the broken glass, and that's when the clicker like jumps and attacks him. At that certain point, Ellie does get bitten in the scuffle between her, Joel, and the clicker. So that's when sorry, that's when she gets bitten. And I think I see you commenting as well, that you want to give me heat for the Spielbergian comment, but you are agreeing, which is disappointing. Sorry to disappoint you. But yes, go back and watch that scene with the table and the crunch of the glass, and you'll see she gets bitten there. But yeah, I love that scene. I thought it was phenomenal. It's as scary as any sort of mainstream television show about zombies is going to get, just from the design of the clickers. Which, by the way, if you've never played the game, I'm sure that there might be a couple of folks watching that haven't played the game. I know all three of us have. Clickers suck. They're so difficult to kill in the game.
Yeah.
And ordinarily, you have the option to kind of Metal Gear them and sneak behind them very stealthily, and then like shiv them with a shiv that you craft and stab them and kill them that way. But as soon as you make a noise, as soon as they hear you, they come after you, and then others hear them and come after you as well. And then they start swarming and you start shooting. But the problem is, when you shoot, it's not just like a headshot and then they're dead. You have to like take them out a million times, like they were doing in the show, to actually, eliminate them. And it sucks. It's really, really difficult, but it's so much fun, and they're so creepy as far as zombies go. We are running a little low on time, so I need to absolutely address the biggest thing that happens in this episode. And spoiler alert for people who haven't seen it, but the death of Tess. And for those of you who played the game, we noticed that it does come a little bit differently, or it's executed a little differently in the show than it is in the game. And I wanted to see what you guys thought about that. Jordyn, I'd love to start with you. Thoughts on how they did Tess's death and the revelation that she gets bitten, all of that.
Yeah, so it's been a long time. I don't remember how Tess dies. I only remember like semi and then big pivotal moments in when I played the game, because it was a long time ago when I had PlayStation. This was I don't know, maybe 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But I was like, shit, really? And it was that realization when they're in sort of like the lobby or the mezzanine, right? And Tess has a reaction, and then Ellie goes, "Oh shit, she's bitten." And I was like, "How did Ellie know that?" Like, from Joel not knowing that, and then Ellie knew, and I'm like, what?" And I was like, "Oh no, oh no, oh no!" And then Tess reveals that she was bitten on the neck, and then all this starts happening, and then Tess is still being Tess, right? She's like, "There's no time." She's like, I don't need any pity." She's like, "You need to get her out of here. This is what's going to happen." And she starts emptying all the fuel barrels. She starts throwing all of the grenades everywhere. And she's like, "You need to go," right? She's still Tess. She's like, you need to protect her. You need to save her. You need to go, blah, blah, blah. I thought the most eerie scene was when you get one of the infected going up to her and sort of doing what we saw the grandmother doing to, people in the family, where basically he starts like cordyceps making out with her, even though she's like infected already. And Tess is still like, nah, bitch, like I'm gonna take y'all out, and then does it, right? I think it was I think for me it was probably a super emotional part of the whole episode. I was like, no, I was like, come on, like how is Joel gonna like get by now, right? He's got this like smart ass fucking like asshole of a kid, and like he's an asshole, and I'm like, what's gonna happen now, right? I mean, we all know what happens,
Yeah.
eventually, but I thought, honestly, I think not remembering how Tess died originally in the video game, I thought this was perfect for just general audiences that want to watch this.
Yeah.
And the way that she left and the way that she did. I thought it was well done.
No worries that I don't blame you for that. The game was a while ago when it first came out, and this is one of the earlier stages in the game. So even if you play through the game, it's hard to remember this. She gets shot by Fedra, actually, the government. The Fireflies are dead around there, and then Fedra's coming, and she tells Joel and Ellie, I'll hold them off. I'm already bitten. A lot of the dialogue from the game is carried over here. Our luck was about to run out anyway, and oops, and then she holds off Fedra with a gun. You don't see it, but you hear it because you're Joel and you're walking up the stairs. And then what you end up seeing when you get to like the top floor and you're overlooking like the lobby from the balcony, you see Tessa's dead body and people like guards and stuff kind of trying to hunt you down. So significantly different. I think the cordyceps and the mythology behind that, the hive mentality, really kind of changed things. But it's in a way I thought it was a little better. Kenji, I'd love to hear what you think. What do you think of Tessa's death and the execution?
Um, well, obviously, there are changes that have to be made when going from different mediums, so like, but I feel like this was a great way for Tess to still go out in a way that's still very much Tess. She's still going out on her own terms, which was something that she did in the game. So like I feel like in that sense they still did the character justice. The only thing I didn't like was and like Boba Fett's pointing this out too, was the fact that she kept trying to flick the lighter.
Oh
When
yeah.
it's like first of all, even when I saw that she was using the lighter, I was like, the grenade would be a much more effective starter in this entire situation. I'm just saying, just one of them, just one of those would be way more effective than
Yeah, why?
just that. So, but then the voice of then a Batman voice in the back of my head said, "No, Kenji, that's the way it has to be. Nothing is more arbitrarily dramatic."
It's an
Like,
excuse for them to show you Nathan Drake's lighter from what is it? I think not the I think it was Uncharted 3 or Uncharted 4 or something like that. But yeah.
yeah,
Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
no. I mean, that's kind of just how I felt about it. Like, just that ultimately, like that tension just could have still been what it needed to be.
Mm.
With like, I feel like rather than her using the lighter, and now that we know that there's this scene that they had written for her character, but that we never actually got to see. Like, it was going to be used possibly as one of the intros, but the fact that her final moments, like if she had used the grenade, we could have had like flash cuts of final moments of like the basement door,
Yeah.
just the basement door,
Yeah.
and that's all we needed to see. Like,
Tess's backstory. Yeah.
yeah, Tessa's backstory, and that's all we needed to see. And then then she could have done like and just as the cordyceps is getting just close enough that it, is about to make out with her, that's when she pulls the pin, as
Yeah.
opposed to this. Oh no, is this gonna? No. It's like, I mean, we need to build. I feel like in those situations, it's like unnecessary tension. Like, I
Yeah.
get that it's there for
Mhm.
tension, but it's also like you could still have a tense moment without that.
Yeah.
And like I mean, and I just gave you guys an example. But anyways.
Well, maybe Nathan Drake was her husband, and that's the lighter, and then I'm kidding. Probably not. Yes, the cute little Easter egg that they put the lighter in there, but that was it.
Guys,
agreed.
the cordyceps is actually the curse of El Dorado.
Hey,
guys.
Naughty Dog cinematic universe, right? Yeah. Guys, I could talk about this forever. Honestly, it was such a good episode. Your insights were brilliant. I can't wait to continue deconstructing the rest of this series with you guys on a week-to-week basis. But unfortunately, we are out of time. I just want to give you guys a little bit to plug anything that you need to plug, and then say where people can find you. Kenji, I'll start with you. Where can folks find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at Kenjinator. You can find me on Twitch at the Kenjinator, and on Sundays you can find me with my dad's D&D campaign, where you can right here, the Gatewalker Saga. His Twitch is at KD in LA, and every Sunday we have our campaign going, so please check us out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kenjinator. And then Jordyn, where can everyone find you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, CityStars13. I post funny stories. I don't really post any posts. I should probably more, but I don't. But I post funny stories and just little tidbits. So yeah, you can find me there.
Awesome. And I've been your host, Mike Manalo. You guys can find me at TidyBullBoy182 on Twitter and Instagram, but mostly on thenerdsofcolor.org, whattowatch.com, and that'satla.com. Until next time, guys, it's been fun. Please be sure to tune in to the next Basic Binges. I believe the next show will be on Wednesday for the Netflix series Jung-E. And other than that, if you want, tune in as well next Monday, where we're going to talk about episode 3 of The Last of Us. Until then, stay safe, guys, and thank you so much.